Hello, welcome to GameGuru Classic and GameGuru Max, broadcast number 139, and a special welcome to those joining us live in our live chat. Format is you get to ask some questions if you're joining us live, and if you do want to ask a question in the live chat, just put a question mark at the end, please. So when I do a scroll through really quick, I can find all the questions and answer them quickly in chronological order. So we're going to break this up to two sections. The first section is some demo, and the second section, all those aforementioned answers I was just alluding to. So first off, we'll go straight into Classic. Not much to show, not much to tell on the GameGuru Classic side at the moment. So I had a bit of a scoot around to find out what's going on in the world of promotions, and this was the biggest discount. It's a 60% off on what's called the GameGuru Unlimited bundle. The idea behind this is you may already own GameGuru Classic and a lot of its DLCs, but you may not own all of them. And what happens is Steam allows us to do like a bundle and put a lot of them in the bundle and offer a huge discount. As you can see here, it's like over £200 if you were to buy them each, and then a 6% slapped onto that. So basically, it's sort of you can make up what you're missing and just pay based on that 6% discount. So it's a pretty good deal. If you literally only got like 2 DLCs that you haven't got, well, go check out promotions like these and you can fill your collection if you're a GameGuru Classic user. But of course, many people are tuning in because you want to find out what's going on in the world of GameGuru Max. So let's go find out what's going on there. So yes, I have rushed straight into Max because there is so much to cover, so much progress I need to reveal. This is going to be a good broadcast, so I'm going to get straight into it. I've already launched the software. If you've tuned into previous ones, you probably know that we've been working on RPG role-playing game, and I am pleased to report that, bar a few little tweaks here and there, the entire RPG subsystem is complete, and all of the HUD templates, just to get you started with all the different sections. And then of course we've designed it in such a way that it's very, very customizable, both at the front end with the screen editor and the back end with scripts. And if you don't want a script, that's also fine, because these things can just be created out of the box, and you can wait around. The community will maybe create some additional stuff, and then you can get access to those, drop them in and use those. So you can customize if you want, but you don't have to. You can just drop in the ones you need, connect them up, away you go with your own particular game project. So I'm not going to go into the level just yet. I just want to show you the screens. I think last broadcast I only really was able to show 3 going up to the player skill, so I'll go through each one. This is the in-game. This is what you're going to see in your game when you first run the game, running around. You see these HUDs all the time, heads-up displays, and you can see we've got all kinds of experience points, hotkeys for hot weapon selection. You got mana and stamina. You got armor count, what weapon you're holding, health. You've got other things like this. I just mentioned this one really quick. If I click it, it says prompt : main. This allows you, remember that text that pops up at the top, and press E to open door? Well, now we've replaced that, because that used to use bitmap fonts. Boo! Now we're going to use proper TrueType fonts, and all you're going to do is make sure that you've got this user-defined global name attached to the text, and now you can choose where that text appears on the screen, the font that it uses, the colour, the size, all that cool stuff. So again, it's all about giving you full customizability. Moving on to the next screen, your inventory screen. So this is your inventory grid. You've got scroll capability. You can select an icon and get to see it. And you've got buttons to do stuff with the item you've selected. And you can of course drag in and out of your hot panel. And of course a collection, a count of how much gold you have at that particular moment, which you might want to be interested in when you glance at your inventory. The next one is player skills. So this has been cleaned up a little bit. So now you've got, again, your experience, how much you earn experience points throughout the game, and then you can level up to level 2, level 3, level 4. This text is reserved for let you know when there's new points to spend. You can spend them across skill, intelligence, dexterity, and armor skills up to a maximum, which are in these hidden values here. Check out last Wednesday's broadcast for more details on player skill. And by increasing your attributes, your proficiencies, you can actually increase these attribute values, which are your maximums for health, mana, and stamina, with the optional protection of additional armor. Then we've got the map view. So map view is a really simple idea. It's comprising of a map window, which defines exactly where that map rectangle is going to appear in your HUD screen. You've got different kinds of markers for the player, for win zones, for objectives, and for enemies, characters, and the like. And you've also got an actual map image. That's something that you can generate very easily yourself, or you can go to great pains and do a nice parchmenty, crinkly map when you've finished your level completely, and you're almost finishing your game, and you want a map that isn't just a top-down satellite view. It may be another kind of map that you're interested in creating. Well, again, it's all customizable, and you can pop your map in there. And just to go back to the first screen, you'll also notice in the top right corner, same idea but shrunk down. The map window, the map image itself, and the little markers. That's your mini-map. You've got your mini-map on your HUD as well. Moving on. So this one is the shop. So trading with characters in the game. These are your items. This is an inventory. You'll notice that it's a different size grid. You can actually use multiple different sizes of grid, and each one can reflect your inventory. A central area to see the item under discussion, its name, how much it buys for, how much it sells for. You've got buy and sell button functions here. And then whoever you're dealing with, this is their shop items. And you can deal with different shops throughout your game. It could be characters standing in the middle of a forest. It could be in the middle of a city in a big shop. And every shopkeeper can have their own container of shop items. And you can even have several shops that draw from the same inventory, if you wanted to do it that way as well. And of course, all important, you need to know how much you've got to spend, which is why it's duplicated here in the shop, and a button to leave if you want to leave, which you probably will at some point. Then you've got this one, which is treasure chests, containers, and loot drops. So imagine it's similar to a shop, but you don't have to buy anything. You just run up to it, open it up, and on the right-hand side, you've got chest items, all the items inside that container. But in every other respect, it is similar. You can move things from your inventory to the chest, or from the chest to the inventory, and a convenient little button here called Take All, which lets you collect everything in one go, grab the loot and run. So those are chests. Then you've got crafting. So again, you want to be able to have your inventory on display so you can populate the crafting screen, and when you click on them, you've got a little icon here. Then you've got a special slot here for a recipe that you will have learned about. So you've collected a recipe somewhere in your game, and then that will tell you the ingredients that you need to craft a new item. So you've got up to 9 slots here. We can put different ingredients in, and if the ingredients are correct and the recipe is right, you click craft, boom, you can create new objects. And finally is the quest log. So very simple HUD screen. Again, super customizable. You can create it as simple or as complicated as you want, which allows you to present the player with a quest, with the title, some descriptions. They can accept it, they can cancel it, and there's some logic in the background about accepting secondary quests. And that is it. Those are not an exhaustive list of RPG mechanics, but they are most of the DNA of RPG. And as I said, the way it's been implemented, and the sort of the grey and the whites and the dark colours, was done deliberately. It's a template. It's sort of saying, here is a gap. Now you fill it with your graphics and your imagination and your style, your colours, your fonts, etc. But it's all there. You don't have to figure it out to build it from scratch. They just go bing. In fact, you've not seen it yet. It will actually be added in the next day or 3. There'll be a new button here where it says Reset HUD Screens. There'll be another one, Add RPG Screens. And when you click that, all of these templates will instantly be added to your game project. So you don't start with them. It's a simple storyboard that just gets you to do simple projects. But the moment you want to do, right, okay, I want some RPG goodness, you just click a single button, all these appear, they'll all be connected up and working. So without further ado, let's play the demo I've been using to test all of this. And hopefully there's not too many loud sound effects. and you can still hear me as I'm running around. So again, this is our HUD screen, map top right, experience top left, mana and stamina down at the bottom with health on the bottom right, on bottom left. So I'm going to collect some objects. So, and I basically just threw down a lot of crates and daggers. So we'll go into inventory. You'll actually see we've got an inventory that I actually picked up 4 desert plants as well. You can rearrange your objects in your inventory, that's absolutely fine to do. You can drop one, so I can drop one of them and I can drop a dagger. Now these are armor crates, I can use one and I can use another one and another one. If I come out of inventory, you see I've now got armor of 30 and there's a crate that I dropped earlier. So that's inventory. So we'll just go through each one. What was the next one? It was shop, I think. So let's run to the shop. Now, the way I've configured it, and you can configure it in all kinds of ways, these 2 old witches share a container, but they can have their own containers if they want. I just wanted to demonstrate that you can sell her an item, then run across the village to the other side. The item is still available in that mutual container. So let's go and talk to the old witch. Some excellent voice art there. And it's as you might imagine. So let's look at this. We've got a scroll, got some herbal poultice. Herbal poultice recipe, that's cool. We'll buy that. And I think I can get those from nature. I don't need to buy them. I can maybe buy this scroll, that looks pretty cool. An Aztec spear, I'll have that. And you can also sell things. Let's say I don't need 8 daggers. Now obviously you can damage your weapons and they'll break over time, but because they're cheap, I'll just sell most of them. Same with the crates, but you get the idea. Typical shop behaviour. We've got a chest that I use this gold pot for. So let's say it's your headquarters, or it's like a wardrobe. Any kind of object that you want to store some of your objects and come back to later, that allows you to do that. If I go back to inventory, you can see that if I get that sphere I just thing, I can now have a sphere like so. Also, we got crafting, so I dropped that down there. I think I'll have yeah, so if I go to this table and we've got the recipe that we bought, so we've dropped that in there. Herbal poultice is the recipe for it. Desert plant Form A and Form B. So what have I got here? I've got desert plant Form A. I need different kind of plants. So those are the 2 kinds of plant. I also know I've put some more over here. So harvest, typical RPG, running around, finding things. And think when you've got enough ingredients, you can go back to the crafting table and we can drop them in. You see, because it was the same, it just added. Now that's the demonstration of resources. You can mark certain items as what's called a resource. Whereas these boxes are individuals, can never be merged together. Things like I got 17 plants and 18 twigs and 22 hides. You don't want them to populate your inventory. You want them all in the same icon, so they're called resources, and that's indicated by the bracket to show it's got a quantity. And we've got a second one, so that's Form B, Form A. Now we've got enough of the 2 ingredients we need for the building this, we just click craft. And you can see we've now got a potion being crafted, and it'll keep using up all of the ingredients until there's only 1 left. If we find another one of Form A, we can make another potion, but I think we've got enough potions now. And I've now demonstrated crafting. Map views. As I said, there's a mini map in the top right, and there's a quest here posted to the wall. Now I've just pressed the M key to go into map view, and I can zoom in and out. So you can see here we've got this clump of reds. Those are all characters, and you'll notice if I zoom right out, and you'll actually see in the mini-map on the top right, it's zoomed right out. If I zoom in, get a bit more fidelity, even like a town with streets and stuff, you'll see the zoom factor is now mapped to the mini-map. So it's quite convenient to set up your map in the big view and then get a convenient view of it in the small. But again, it's all customized. This is all something you can change the sizes and exactly how sophisticated you want your maps to be. We've made sure that these aren't hard coded. It's essentially HUD screen assets connected to script. And after a little bit of Lua learning, you can script. But you don't have to, as I say. You've got templates if you don't ever want to script. So if I collect this one here off the wall, press E to view the quest. Forest Hero, go to the location marked for you on the map and collect the item. Okay, I'll have that. So I've accepted the quest. Now look at the minimap in the top right. You've got a yellow objective marker that's now glowing and expanding up and down, and you can see it's pointing in generally that direction with all the zombies. And as you can see, we've got the large map, but also showing the same objectives. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate my cool spell. So I'm going to put my spell. This is a poison area at the moment. It's one of the things we're working on. More spells are on the way. This is just one for test purposes, and I'm putting it into slot 3 of my hotkeys panel. So obviously I've got my spear in 2, my dagger in 1, but I've got 3 on standby. So as soon as these guys are within my range, bang. Saves me all the hassle of trying to fight them. And a big pot of gold, as you might imagine. Dink. See, the objective yellow marker has now disappeared. That quest is complete. If I go into inventory, I've just added 1,000 gold. It's a quest that can be defined within behaviours. In fact, that's how you'll get most of your quest logic and whoa, hiding. Because I got 27 armour, not as much damage as would normally be. What did I do with player? Yeah, I would have received a lot less damage if I started bulking up on these. So as you can see, I've got some slightly better buttons than last week. So now you can increase your strength, which affects health, intelligence, which is how much mana. Yeah, I think I have to toggle those two, and dexterity, which is how much stamina you can have. So if I come back out, you'll see my stamina bar is increasing. Now my maximum stamina's gone up. My current stamina is increasing slowly to match that. Mana's doing the same, but at a much slower rate. And I'm 441 health. Do I have any health? Health poultice, use. 441. I think, no, I'll tell you what this is. Herbal poultice is mana. Gives you more mana. So now I've maxed out. In fact, let's use them all. I've just set these up as individuals because I was crafting them as individuals. But you could set up, say, your potions as another resource, so it just take up one icon instead of lots of individual ones. Now you'll see that mana is not only got to maximum bar, it's gone above. Because I think what should happen is when you're in inventory and you try and use a mana and you've maxed out your mana, it should basically be nice and friendly and say, no, you can't use any more mana. Right now it's just going to give you super mana, which looks a bit weird on the HUD screen, which is why ultimately it won't be allowed. So that's it. That's inventory, shops, quests, crafting, map views, player skills and quests. Which is basically most of the things you're going to need if you want to make an RPG game. If I cast a spell here, I can kill the shopkeepers, which means, of course, you can't buy anything from them. And because I'm really excited about it, look at the pots. Yeah, I'll tell you why too. In order to finish the RPG system, there's many situations where you, like crafting, you have to create the object out of thin air. It's the only way to have done it, and be able to craft an object, then drop it. Buy an object, then drop it. An object that wasn't in the level before you started, then you get it. An object you brought from level 1 to level 2, and then drop. There had to be a way to create objects in real time, in the level, on the fly. I've resisted it for, what, a year? It's finally going in because of RPG. And you can see instantly at the kind of fun you can have. This is actually a real thing. I just hacked this in 20 minutes before the broadcast started. which it was basically this was a health behavior, and I just slapped in a little instruction which said every 1 second, if I'm within 300 units and looking at it, pick an object within that 1 second interval. Usually it's the one that's closest to me. As you can see, it could be anywhere. It depends who gets that lucky timer click. And then they're asked to spawn new clone of itself. So whatever the object is, it clones itself, its properties, its position. But of course, that's a command you can use in lots of different ways. Generating monsters and animals in a forest to hunt, a fruit machine that just keeps on giving, any kind of object basically. Now I've only done it with pots because I really just wanted to focus on the RPG and inventories and objects and stuff. But the way it's coded, there isn't really any reason why you couldn't spawn anything. Buildings, more particles, whatever it needs to be. And the reason I had this going on last is it's completely untested. I don't know how many objects you can create. Another variation on this is every object can create 2 of itself every second, which is what's called an exponential curve. So instead of just 1 pot every 1 second, after 3 seconds there's 3 pots creating 3 pots each, which is 9, and then 9 pots are created in the 5th second, and then nans 81 in the 6th second. So you can imagine that would be a nasty demonstration. This entire circle will be full of red pots by the time I'd finished 1 sentence. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that, and I'm absolutely positive you're going to get a lot of fun out of it when you start making your own very, very silly levels. So what's next, I hear you cry? Well, more spells. I just saw what I cast on the shopkeepers was an area effect spell. We also have some more area effect spells, some targeted spells, and some more graphics to go with those as well. It won't be exhaustive, just enough spells to demonstrate spells, and just enough crafting recipes to demonstrate crafting before you either create your own for your game or wait for a DLC that a third party creates to give you a huge amount of spells or a huge amount of things to craft. But you get the idea. After that's done, I'm pretty happy that RPG is stable with all of the templates easily demonstratable. Then we're going to move on to VR, and essentially the movement, the interaction of VR, and also the HUDs. Think about it. This is a keyboard and mouse. When you're messing about with your inventory, how would that look in VR? So that's another challenge to work on. Just pick these up because I can. And I think I'm going to end the level now before something horrible happens. But yes, I think spawning's pretty cool. And also, it goes without saying that all them pots are now disappeared. You only spawn them in the game. When you come back to the level editor, it resets everything, so you don't end up with lots of pots you have to keep deleting each time, which actually was what happened earlier on in the development of spawning. Okay, I'm going to look for a live chat window. I get a sense I have talked well into my quota for talking. Yep, 27 minutes into the hour. If we were to stick religiously to our 30-minute maximum for broadcasts, that leaves 2 minutes for questions. And I remember one of the first comments in the live chat today was, Lee's going to go snowblind with all the questions that's going to come through. So I ain't going to end at 30 minutes. I'm going to extend this broadcast to answer your extremely worthy questions. So let's do this properly. Okay, it's Q&A time, and we start at the top. Question right out the bat. No hellos, no formality, straight in. What do you think about adding support for legacy shaders GameGuru Classic? There are no plans to support GameGuru Classic's legacy shaders in GameGuru Max. The shaders are completely different. In fact, 92% of the shaders are from the Wicked engine, and 8% are very, very, very performant and clever shaders that we had to write for procedural terrains and stuff like that. So there aren't any plans for version 1 to be able to allow custom... You could actually go into the repository and then change the hooks in the Wicked engine and add your own shader tweaks there. That's fine. You'll be able to do that. But it goes without saying you need to know C++ to compile the Wicked engine, and you'd need to know HLSL in order to write the shaders. If you can do both of those things, go for it. Go nuts. It's absolutely fine. But it's not really something that everyone will be able to do. HLSL is not your friend most of the time. And even slight errors cause horrible disasters for the entire engine. So yeah, I imagine not everyone will be screaming for custom shader support for version 1. Okay, there you go. We're ready to drive Lee blind with questions. Well, bring it on, Lucas. Okay, second question, sorry, is here, and it is from Lucas. Are we able to import parts or clothing into the character maker? Also, can we get some kind of texture, change colour in it? No plans to add any more than what you already see in the current character creators. So that's heads, bodies, legs, feet, and headgear and beards and glasses. Those are the only things you can currently change in the character creator. After version 1, there'll be more important things, I think, that we'll be working on. So we're kind of going to leave the character creator alone until, or unless, some third-party artist comes along with a box full of character things. Like, you know, hundreds of bits that together could make lots of interesting new characters. If that actually arrived in my inbox, I would seriously consider extending Character Creator just to support all of that content. That will be a worthy venture. What I'm not going to do is create a lot of new features in the Character Creator but not have any assets to fuel those new features with. So I'm going to wait for the assets first, then I will add the ability in the Character Creator to use those assets. So maybe that's I've just thrown the gauntlet out there. I think it's probably the right way around anyway. Okay, question mark is from the Bearded Kitten. I am wanting to make a sci-fi RPG, and I was wondering if it's going to be possible to make our own different kinds of terrain and biomes for, say, other planets. Not for version 1. The biomes that you get in the terrain generator, that's things like the Arctic, the desert, the forests, the plains, I think the 7 biomes. Those are the only ones you're going to get for version 1. Again, if there's more assets coming our way from third parties, we can extend the biomes. And if there's a lot of call for it, sure, be able to customize and create your own biome sets. But really, a biome is just a combination of textures. That's all really a biome is, and some clever little fractal values for what kinds of terrain are typically generated when you click randomize. But there's not a lot of sophistication to those biomes, they're just variations on a theme. So what I would suggest is pick the closest biome to the game style that you want. I think the desert will be a good one for Mars and for other planets. Or the forest one if it's the forest moon of Endor. And then just go from there. Because we kind of covered all of the earthly biomes. And I think with a few small tweaks in the textures and some models, I think you can go quite a long way. But I do agree that to the nth degree, you would want like alien planets with strange looking, not quite trees but not quite plants sort of thing. But you're going into niche territory there. And one thing we're going to be focusing on and making sure that what we do with our precious time is features that most of the people will benefit from, rather than like an edge case or a niche case. Question number 2. What is the limit of objects that a zone may affect, alter, show, etc.? 9. There you go. 9. You can cascade them, so a zone can trigger another zone, and that zone can trigger 9. And then the initial zone can link to a second zone, which will do another 9. But in all of our case scenarios of creating levels that do lots and lots of different things. If you're new to GameGuru Max, check out the Hub's demo section. There's a lot of games that we created over the last year and a bit. And we never needed to do a chain of zone connected to zone connected to zone. Typically, the most I used was 4 or 5 to switch a light on, light switch, which will switch like a lot of lights on in a room. That's about as far as I went. If you need more than 9, let me know why. Okay, I Am the Rampage asks 2 questions. Is there a way, or will there be a way in the future, to show a video at the title screen instead of a static image, or at least animated GIF format? No plans for that in version 1. There'll be static images. Would there be plans in the future? Yeah, I think so. It's not a hugely difficult thing. It's just not a high priority for get us to the version 1. If like 4 independent users all come at me at different angles and say the same thing, and it's 2 hours of work, then yeah, it makes perfect sense to add it into a future update. And your second question, sorry, I'm going to skip Raphael just for a second. Is there a way to tell GameGuru Max to display a video at specific coordinates on screen, like play to a character, give communication instructions, or an animated GIF? Yes. If you're talking about inside the level itself, you can trigger a video to play based on events. So have your video zone set up, you walk to a character, the character talks, some trigger happens, and then you can play the video. You can do that. You just can't do it in the title screens. Now your HUD screens that are in your game, you've seen inventory and quest. The quest screen is probably a good example. You've got script control of that. You can show the quest screen, you can hide the quest screen, play a video, then hide the video and then re-show the quest screen. You can do that in script. That's within your capability. But you need to lower script. And bouncing back one to Raphael, any plans for new weapons in the game? I'm guessing as a DLC. No plans for any more weapons for version 1. So everything that you've seen so far, the pistols and the shotgun and so the projectile weapons and the grenade, those are going to be those kinds of weapons. And then of course the dagger, the Aztec dagger you get for free. And I think there's some more weapons like hammer and a saw. I think those are actually out of the box as well. So you got some melee weapons in addition to the shooty weapons. But there aren't any plans to add any more. And you are right in your suspicions that if there are going to be a big batch of new weapons, either projectile or melee, they will be in the form of a DLC. And just to make it absolutely clear, specifically to the Steam users who don't bother researching the subject, all the DLCs will be done by third-party artists, and those third-party artists want paying, which is why it's a DLC. End of. Okay, moving on to the next question, which is from Duke229. When will custom terrain textures be a thing? Yeah, that probably connects in with that earlier question about alien biomes, because right now, although it is possible to create custom terrain textures, it ain't easy, and it certainly isn't out of the box in large neon letters in an instruction section somewhere. So not for version 1. The biomes you get is what you get. Custom textured terrains and biomes are probably lumped into one big effort. And so the question really is, what is it that everybody wants that we aren't providing? Or maybe a better question is, look, everyone's going to tell this game is GameGuru Max because of the terrain textures that are in my terrain, and I want to use my own textures. I'll tell you what, this is another little gauntlet I'm going to throw out there. You show me 16 textures. Send me 16 textures that you have created, and you say, look, I have the textures, I just need the feature now in order to change this terrain to my terrain. Show me that, and I will add the functionality. How's that? After version 1, of course, but I throw it in as a quick update after version 1. Send me the textures. Prove me that my efforts will not be in vain. Okay, a question from Retro Game Bloke. Is a journal option possible, or are quests not linkable? No plans to do journaling, and the quests, as I hinted at, is simple combination of the HUD screens and scripts. So it can be as simple or as sophisticated as you want, but you do need to script. If the question is, when can people who don't want to create art, don't want to script, don't really want to spend a lot of time learning, just want to press 7 buttons and have journaling and lots of quest linkage, That's not going to be for version 1, but I would like to know in more detail what the various scenarios might be. And if a lot of people think, you know what, that is a pretty core thing, we totally need it, then I'll put some feelers out and see who might want to start working on that area of scripts. And I suspect the first stuff like that will actually come from those who'll take the simple quest system and then big it up and make it more sophisticated. And what's most likely is we'll take that and just put it into the official version, whilst the core team work on the underlying game engine, the C++ and the performance and the stabilities and the compatibilities and all that kind of stuff. By making the screen editor as sophisticated and customizable as it is, and making an enormous amount of lower commands for the scripting, we have detached ourselves from that process. You don't have to wait on us anymore. You can go off and create all that yourself. And if someone does that and it's of a certain quality, and you know what, that's pretty cool, everyone will love that, we'll ask that author, we'll say, look, can we buy it off you and give it to the rest of the community? So we could deliver it in that way as well. Okay, another question from the Bearded Kitten. For sci-fi games, can we make or add sci-fi type guns like laser guns or guns that shoot out particles? Blah, 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 blah. See previous about if there are going to be more weapons, it'll be the form of DLC by third parties. So third parties have already been able to create weapons and add them to the GameGuru Max universe. Go check out the Wasteland weapons. So there's quite a lot of weapons there. So it is doable. Artists can do that for you right now. And I do think there is a big gap right now where when you start seeing sci-fi characters, the very next thing you're going to see are sci-fi guns and sci-fi alien character monsters. So it will definitely come in the form of somebody else's DLC, and we'll happily sell it for them. Okay, did I scroll too far or have I done it just right? I think I scrolled okay. I need to find my place. I really should have been paying attention to how much I was scrolling. Here we go. This is from Marcos. Is there any possibility of having a plan or water box in the coming months? 4 question marks. No plans to do a water box, and there's always a plan. The plan is to get to version 1 with RPG and VR and stability and lots of bug fixes and a classic 2 Max importing. So that's the plan, if you're interested. Spicy Milk asks, are there any plans to add cars to GameGuru Max? Not for version 1. A lot of people have asked vehicles, not just cars, but bicycles, unicycles, horses, blimps, boats, submarines, rockets, you name it. GameGuru Max is of a certain sophistication now that you could kind of do all of that in scripts with all the scripting commands, and now with the ability to spawn objects out of nowhere and use the physics commands to connect everything together, that could actually be done by the community without our intervention. We do want to look at it a bit closer after version 1. Is there a few extra commands that we can throw in there that then make it super easy to create not just any old thing that moves around and we'll call it a vehicle, but really nice vehicles, you know, like wheels with the proper friction and suspension and the ability for them to be tweaked so they actually play well over roads and rough surfaces and things like that. So if we were to go in that direction, we'd probably start with creating the commands and then see what the community do with those commands and the artists do in terms of creating the vehicle chassis and all the bits you'd need to glue together with physics. Another question from Marcos, is there any possibility to add adjustable terrain texture offset? I think that would probably get lumped in with the ability to do custom terrain textures and additional custom biomes. I think you probably want to be able to tweak not just what texture you're using, but the nuances and the metadata about that texture. There aren't that many, but yeah, you would want to be able to control that to get exactly the terrain coverage that you want. Here's another question from Maverick 1981. Can decals or sprite sheets be applied to HUDs at some point? Blinking lights or radar and a little bit. Yeah, we're basically going to get rid we're depreciating the use of decals and sprite sheets in the 3D world simply because of VR. VR hates decals. Decals look really stupid when you see them in virtual reality. Instead, anytime you see a decal, we can replace it with a real volumetric particle. That way it'll look better, be higher quality effect, but also it looks good on a monitor and in VR without you having to do one thing for one user and one thing for another user. It's the same asset type, but it works in both universes. Do you let me know if I'm wrong? And there's absolutely a reason to use a animating decal, which is basically a rectangle floating around in 3D space, and what you might use it for. And I do make a distinction between decals and, say, posters, which really is a flat billboard that's in your 3D world, and like a petrol station sign, which is a flat thing. You kind of want it to be flat. That's different than decals, which is a hack trick in order to fool the user into thinking there's some volumetric thing going on when it isn't. You've just painted some volumetric visual onto a flat piece of cardboard, and it really looks bad in VR, and it's not that sophisticated in 2D monitorship anymore. So yeah, we're looking to remove all those decals. Very long answer there for you. Hope it was sufficient. Another question from Marcos. Is there any possibility to add adjustable terrain texture displacement correction? See previous answer. It all falls into the same umbrella. A suggestion and... oh, what happened to me scrolly bar? Just rocketed on there. Come back a little bit. Here's a question from Fearless Wee. Can we create objects in real-time system work for spawning characters? This is a huge addition. Yeah, I don't see why not. The way the code's been written, I'm just spawning the pots because they were nice and small and physics and they could roll around and look funny. There should be no reason why you couldn't spawn a character and the character immediately wakes up and starts running around doing things. They probably need some bugs to fix. I've not tried characters, but yeah, there should be no reason why you can't spawn. Let's say you've got a quest where you need to kill 15 piglets for the hides, where you could spawn the 15 piglets in the forest when the quest starts. That'll keep your performance nice and high, and you'd need to be able to do that. And if those piglets were particularly clever, you'd want them as characters. So yeah, expect that to work for version 1. Here's a question from eTurpin. For the RPG module, could you allow players to type text, not just choose a dialogue option? That would be great for educational games behaviour. If text equals this, then do this. Yeah. Try and think of an RPG game I've played recently where you type out text. No, I'm struggling. Please send me a link to an RPG game where you've actually tapped out a text on a HUD screen and it did things. I just want to get to some context as to how it will be looked and used inside a game. Totally understand an extra gadget to type text and then you can do scripty stuff with that text, like an input gadget. But is that RPG or is that just something that you want to do very clever, cool stuff? Let me know. Okay, Warpickle Productions asks, I'm making an FPS game and have no interest in inventory or any RPG mechanics. Well, you don't have to use it. Will there be a way for me to allow the player to keep guns from level 1 to level 2 and set this as needed? Yeah, that will absolutely be part of the RPG system, even though you're not interested in the RPG system. When you collect an object in level 1, it instantly becomes part of what's called a collections list. And that collections list is game global, not level global. So then if you move to level 2 and you still have that weapon and then you drop that weapon's now in level 2. Because you picked it up. It's part of the game global collection list. So yeah, that's just basically out of the box. You'd need to do that for anything, not just weapons, but any kind of item. So expect that to work. And I apologise in advance for inflicting RPG on you. Okay, another question. La 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 la. No questions all the way down to Cash Cove. Will there be a full guide explaining all the new RPG features and how to implement these into our games? Yes. There will be a guide. I'm not going to promise that it's comprehensive. It will be enough that you'll be able to create all of the different RPG elements for your game, at the very least. It probably won't go into all of the nuance subjects, all of the behind the scenes and stuff like that. That will continue to evolve slightly as we make it more and more powerful after version 1. And the reason it's not going into the guide right away is if it changes, the guide gets out of date almost immediately. But all of the broad strokes, how do you go in with a blank screen and make stuff and then it works? Yeah, there'll be a guide for that for the version 1 release. Spiky Milk asks, are there plans to add a custom weapon importer? There are no plans for custom weapon importing in version 1. Just the key port. Is there some proper tutorial for inventory system and the new features? Yeah, see previous answer. Is there any option to change health HUD? You can completely remove it, you can move it, you can change the font, you can change the images, you can change how the health is represented. You can change quite a lot now, thanks to the storyboard screen editor. Question mark on its own. Oh, sorry, yeah, I'll add them together. Bob says, I would like a better weather system. Question mark. No plans to add a better weapon system in version 1. Lots of question marks on this one. I am the Rampage. Sorry, I meant that I'd like the video, for instance, to play at the bottom right so it's not the player's view and give the story while moving in. That possible, or is that script thing? That's a script thing. I think you could actually have a video playing in the bottom right whilst you're running around in the game. The only reason the video zone pauses the action whilst you watch the video is we've actually asked the script just to pause the character until you click a button to get out of it. That's just a scripty thing. If you got rid of all that and just played a video and placed it in a rectangle on the screen, you could actually have it playing whilst you play the game. Why you want to do that, I'd be interested to see what your game idea is as to why that would be useful. Okay, War Pickles Productions. Definitely seems to me that FPS has been completely forgotten about. That's because FPS has been done. FPS has been done, and so we're moving on to RPG. RPG and FPS, by the way, are not mutually exclusive. In fact, modern games will blend large quantities of first-person shooters and role-playing games and puzzle games and every other damn genre, all mixed into a nice, lovely bag. It's what we do when we innovate beyond the standard Space Invaders genre of yesteryear. So do expect lots of blending between FPS and RPG. It is the way of the world. Okay, Era. Another thing is ladder. Do we have ladder in new updates? There are no plans to add ladder in GameGuru Max for version 1. Ladder, I mean. Yeah, there is a ladder object and a ladder behavior. If you play a game called Snowy Mountain Stroll, right at the beginning of the level, there's a ladder that you have to climb up to actually start the level. So go check that out. There are ladders in GameGuru Max. I Love Clint asks, when will characters use ladders, jumps, swim, etc.? Sure, players obviously can use ladders, and players can jump, players can swim. The question is, if I drop in like an enemy or an ally, when can they climb up the ladder to follow me? When can they jump over a crevasse or swim through the water with me? At the moment, the most you'll get is an ally will try and follow you through the water. When the head goes underwater, they'll drown. that's the extent of the characters' cooperation in that respect. There's no plans for enhancing the characters before version 1. The characters that you see now, aside for some AI work on the RPG side, will pretty much be as is. Now, it's not impossible for characters to do everything the player can do. It really just requires that the AI gets created for it. Anything like following paths and figuring out where they can stand and where they can jump from one nav mesh zone to another, all the data is there. It might need a few extra Lua commands, but yeah, it's really just down to adding more AI to give the character those additional superpowers. It's not like, oh, that's impossible. It's just a case of extending the AI so that it encompasses climbing ladders, jumping out of windows, outfoxing a player who thinks there's outfox the character. You get the idea. So I'm checking the clock. I can't believe it. We're at 52 minutes. This will be the longest broadcast in quite some time. Well, let's go cheeky. Let's push it over the hour because I can see there's a few more questions. And who am I? If we're going to break it, let's break it big. Okay, Sam PFS Gaming asks, put the script to sleep in the game, go to next day. If that's a question, let me try and rephrase it. You want to be able to put the game to player to sleep and then wake up the next day. So day-night cycle. We actually have a day-night cycle behavior in the works. And I imagine you'll want a behavior where you say like sleep for 7 hours and then it'll speed up the game clock and then you resume and then you're up next day. That's a very, very good RPG trope. That will go in. If it doesn't, if you don't hear it in next week's broadcast, yell and let me know. It has to go in. Day night cycle without being able to speed up the game clock, it will be quite torturous, I would imagine. So yeah, that's a good idea. Good thought though. Fearless We asked another question. What about readable notes, audio logs for the inventory system? Probably should be in its own notes menu inventory so they don't fight space with items and weapons. That will be up to you. We've left it open. The HUD screen editor lets you create all the different kinds of things you want. Remember when you saw the inventory and the shops and the chests and the craft? They all use different containers. So you can actually have another container and place all of your very specific types of item in specific kinds of container, like notes. You already have behaviors where you can, say, pick up a document and use it. And when you use it, the behavior that's connected to that note will go full screen and show you the note or the message or whatever it is. So all of that already exists. It was just for you to connect them together if you want that in your particular game. And of course, we're always here to help if you need some assistance on which commands do which. I just got drawn to Lee. I think my wife is going to leave me because I told me GameGuru. Yeah, well, it's, you know, I was always taught that life is about balance. so 50% GameGuru, 50% life ought to do the trick. Okay, another question from Darren. Is there going to be a developer tool that allows you to shape the pathway to connect the terrain, paint textures and vegetation much easier? No plans to do path painting, of which you suggest for version 1. We do have some really cool and snazzy ideas like Catmull Run splines that can create not just paths, which you can just draw out right now, but paths that have additional textures and geometries and clever things. Like railways and roads with pavements and formal roads and paths and cobbles. You get the idea. But right now you really just are left to a paintbrush and figure out where you want your path and just paint that path, which you can do right now. But nothing beyond that for version 1. Okay, I think we're down to what? 2 more questions. This is from Mads Jensen. Might be a stupid question. No stupid questions in this world. Sorry in advance, is there an official release date for version 1? No date is scheduled to be announced at this time, but it will be very soon. And we are hurtling towards the version 1 release. The only things that you've not seen yet in great detail will be part of version 1 is VR. RPG is pretty much there. We've got a few bits and bobs to do, and then straight into VR, which is kind of half complete anyway. And then that will be all of the broad strokes for the version 1 release of GameGuru Max. And then after that, we jump into the updates, and then it's down to the community as to what's mostly missing, what's mostly needed, and then focus on those things to make sure that those who are actively using GameGuru Max get the additional updates that they need so they can finish their games, release them on Steam, and become millionaires. Okay, another question. This is from Retro Game Blog. Did you forget to show more examples of occlusion bump mapping? It was not my plan this week to show more examples of occlusion bump mapping. The implementation is complete in the parallax occlusion mapping system is now in GameGuru Max EXP build. All you need to do is provide an appropriately formatted height map, attach it to your object, drop your object into your level, set the lighting correctly so you can actually see what's going on, and you should be able to see your lovely bump map surfaces. If there's still some confusion on exactly how to do it, let me know, and we'll expand the guides in that respect. There's an objects guide. Go into the guides folder. There's a folder called objects. Inside there, that's usually the area that talks about what to do with textures, what formats do you need, how do you set up the FP, etc. And if you need more information on POM, parallax occlusion mapping, let me know, and we will add some more info there, because we do want to see more use of the POM. The POM is good. The POM is our friend. Okay. Darren asks, what about SDK Hammer DevTool textures? That is for GGM. No plans to support SDK Hammer DevTools textures in GameGuru Max at this time. And the last question, I think it's the last question. Can we attach a camera to a rocket in GameGuru Max? Boom. I did an interview about 7 years ago, it feels like. And one of the things in the interview was, and you'll be able to get a rocket and fire the rocket and stick a camera to the rocket and see where the rocket's going, because you can see through the camera. You know, you could probably do that right now with scripts in GameGuru Max. I'm pretty sure you could do that right now. In fact, third gauntlet, final gauntlet of the evening thrown out into the world. Someone write that, please, and so I can take the credit. So effectively, you've got your, whatever it is, let's say it's let's say it's a turret. A rocket turret. You go up to it, you press E. It fires a rocket, right? And then the camera changes perspective to the nose cone of the rocket. And it flies and then explodes and the camera pulls back to see the damage. Then you flick back to the rocket turret. Someone make that. That would be super, super cool. He says it's not a serious question. I know. That's why I didn't give you a serious answer. But I still would like to see that. It would be a combination of a model, two models, and a behavior, and some clever scripting. You can do it right now. Let's see if you can figure that one out. In fact, after version 1, I think we'll have a lot of conversations like this. Some idea comes along, it's like, well, I ain't doing it, but I can tell you right now, Max can do it. Now let's see if you can do it. Okay, we have definitely started burning the midnight oil now. It is 1 hour in. I think we started the broadcast about 2 minutes in. So by the time I finished waffling, we'll have actually got to the 1 hour mark. So if you've got any more questions, that will help me a lot. Just to make sure you get those 2 minutes. It would be a shame if we only got to 59. But it looks like I have been diligent and all of the questions asked so far have been answered, which is great. Some people who are regulars in the live chat do want these broadcasts to be 1 hour long. The reason we don't do that is no one really sits through 1 hour. We have statistics and we actually know how long videos are watched for. We've done we've done hundreds of videos over the years, and not many people watch them all the way through. I think, believe it or not, 10 to 15 minutes is the average. Now maybe the average has been skewed by people who click the video, realise they made a mistake after 10 seconds and then stop. And if you take that on aggregate and average it down, then the average would actually be about 10 to 15 minutes. So who knows? Statistics can tell you anything you want to know, even if it's wrong. And the last question of the night will be, can RPG be tested already? Yes. If you go onto Steam and select EXP build, if you go onto socials, you'll find there's a password floating around. In fact, someone could post it here before I switch things off, and you can get access to what we call the EXP experimental build. And it has in already right now lots of the RPG mechanics I've demonstrated today. The only thing you don't see is the HUD screens, because that will be coming very shortly in the storyboard, and the test level that I've been using that cobbled all of these different things together. But the underlying Lua commands, and of course the games engine itself that runs it all, that's in the EXP build right now. So yes, the answer is yes, you can play with it if you know where to look. So that's it for this Wednesday. I apologise for those who only expected 30 minutes but couldn't quite quit it, so you just lost half an hour of your life. Sorry about that. I'll be back next Wednesday at 7 PM GMT, so if you want to ask more questions, I'll be available then. I'll be happy to answer, and let's see if we can do it in 30 minutes or whether it's going to be another 1 hour long ordeal. So until next Wednesday, 7 PM GMT, thanks very much for all your questions. I'll speak to you all next week. Until then, goodbye.